All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about one of the most critical and honestly one of the most overlooked parts of any project, the people. Specifically, the stakeholders, the ones who can either make your project a huge success or quietly sink it before it ever even sets sail.
I mean, you've done all the math, you've crunched the numbers, your plan is airtight, technically perfect. You think that's enough to guarantee a win?
Yeah, that's cute. Because in the real world, most projects get killed before they even launch. And it's not because the data was wrong, it's because you messed with someone's workflow. You moved their cheese.
And this really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? These so-called soft skills, they're not soft at all. They're the hard reality of getting things done. See, your technical skills will help you survive, for sure. But it's understanding human nature that will help you thrive.
So let's take a little walk through the project graveyard. We need to understand why so many brilliant ideas end up here. And if you want to avoid that fate, the very first step is knowing exactly who you're dealing with.
So, what is a stakeholder? Well, simply put, it's anyone with skin in the game. It could be the exec who signs the checks, the IT person whose systems you're about to change, or, the frontline employee whose entire daily routine is about to get flipped upside down. They all have a stake.
And here is the absolute key thing you have to remember. No change ever happens in a vacuum. Anytime you improve a process, you are fundamentally changing someone's job, maybe their influence, or just their comfort level. You've moved their cheese, and you just can't be surprised when they react to that.
So, how do we navigate this incredibly complex human landscape without getting completely lost? Well, we need a map, a strategic way to understand who has the power and who really cares. And this is your map, the power versus interest matrix. This simple grid is going to be your best friend when it comes to strategic alignment. It helps you figure out exactly where to spend your energy so you're not wasting your time and emotional capital on the wrong people.
Okay, let's break this down, starting in the top left. These are your high-power, low-interest folks. Think of a senior executive from a totally different department. They could kill your project with a single word, but honestly, they don't really care about the nitty-gritty details. So your job? Just keep them satisfied. Give them the high-level updates and make sure your project doesn't become a problem for them.
Now, this quadrant, this is where projects either live or die. High power and high interest. These are your key players, your VIPs. We're talking about your project sponsor, key department heads. You have to manage them closely, engage them fully, make them your partners, because their support is absolutely non-negotiable.
Down on the bottom left, we've got the people with low power and low interest. Your strategy here is really simple, minimal effort. Monitor them, sure, but a general update in the company newsletter, that's probably enough. Don't overinvest your time here. And finally, the bottom right, low power but high interest. Now, these are often the people doing the actual work in the process you're trying to improve. They might not have formal authority, but listen, they can become your secret weapon. They can be incredible allies and goodwill ambassadors. Your job is to keep them informed, listen to their feedback, and just watch them become champions for your cause from the ground up.
All right, so we've mapped out all the players. Now we need to understand why some of them might be digging in their heels and resisting.
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, they might tell you it's about the budget or the timing, but so often the real reasons are buried way, way deeper than that.
So one way to think about resistance is with these three archetypes. First, you've got your winners. They're positive, they're high energy. These are your champions. Then you have spectators who, they mean well, but they don't really have the energy to get involved. And then you have a group sometimes called terrorists. Now, that's a strong label, I know, but it perfectly describes those with high energy and a negative attitude. They can be like a depth charge just waiting to sink your progress if you're not careful.
And look, this resistance, it's almost always fueled by fear. It might be a genuine belief that the change is just impossible, or it could be a much more personal fear of losing status. So when you hear someone say, "That's beyond our responsibility," what they might really be thinking is, "I'm worried this is going to make my job obsolete." Your task is to hear the fear that's behind the words and figure out the right antidote for their specific motive.
So we've mapped the terrain. We've decoded the resistance. Now for the most important part. Turning those potential foes into allies with a real, concrete action plan. See, the goal isn't just to identify where people stand. It's to strategically move them. This matrix shows it perfectly. You mark where they are right now with an X and where you need them to be with an O. And that gap, the space between the X and the O, well, that's your action plan.
So how do you actually close that gap? Well, it comes down to three things.
1. Get their buy-in early. Communicate the why way before you get to the what. 2. Give them a voice. The people on the front lines have experience that you just don't have. Let them make suggestions. And 3. Make it their legacy. When you make people feel like they're contributors instead of just victims of change, you transform their resistance into real momentum.
And that really is the bottom line, isn't it? This isn't about playing office politics. It's about strategic engagement. Engaging the right people in the right way, that is what separates a successful project from one that ends up in that graveyard we talked about.
Okay, you now have the map and the strategy to navigate the human terrain of your project. If you can master this, you will keep your best ideas out of the project graveyard. But identifying the players is only the first step.
Because let's be honest, knowing who can influence your project is one thing. Choosing who you actually want in the trenches with you, actively building the solution, that's a whole other ballgame. And that is exactly what we are going to cover next time. We're going to show you how to go from just analyzing your stakeholders to actually building a dream team that can execute any project flawlessly. I'll see you then.